I just love Anarchapulco, and I'm so honored to be a part of it and grateful that you all are welcoming of me and my ideas and allowing me to focus my time and energy into this project, because I really believe it's changing the world in one of the most tangible and real ways that I've ever seen before in my life.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I've got a great guest coming on. It's Bleish. She's actually managing the health and wellness portion of Anarchapulco, and she's actually been at the last couple of Anarchapulcos. And actually last year, she basically was helping manage the health and wellness stage. And this year, she's officially doing that, and she's been working with us quite a bit on that. So very excited about that. And of course, we're just have just announced a lot of the speakers for Anarchapulco 2020, which is coming up February 13th to 16th. There's going to be a lot more to announce, but these are some of the main ones. We're super excited to have back, for I think the third year, Dr. Ron Paul. He always packs the room. I think everyone knows him. There's not much I need to say there, but being at his age, to keep coming back to Anarchapulco is pretty amazing, and super excited about that. Tons of new speakers this year, and just let people know that's sort of the goal each year, is to have a lot of new ones. So if there's some past ones that aren't speaking, it's not like we don't like them, but we only have about 35 spots on the main stage. So we have John McAfee coming in. I think a lot of you know him with his penis prediction for 2020. And interesting guy. He's now basically on the run from the IRS and still running for president. Pretty amazing. Who knows if he can even make it in person because of, or if he'll be in jail or what the heck's going to happen. But he has agreed to speak at Anarchapulco, so he'll be in one way or another speaking at Anarchapulco. Super excited about that. Some of you might not know this person. I wasn't fully aware of her. Sherry Peel Jackson. She actually used to work for the IRS and then realized it's all scam. And then she started helping people to evade taxes, essentially, like how to use the IRS's code to get around it. And like many of our speakers, was thrown in jail, I think, for about 4 years. Which is so typical. So many of the speakers I'm about to name have been in jail. Actually, most of our speakers, I think, have been in jail because everything's illegal in places, especially like the U.S. So she's a real hero, in my opinion, because she worked for the IRS and then realized it was a scam and then helped people to avoid taxes, got thrown in jail for it. That's always like a bit of a badge of honor for us anarchists a little bit, is if you've actually been in jail for fighting the system. And so super happy about that. She should be on Anarchast soon. And then I'm super excited for Doug Casey. He's been listed a few times to be speaking at Anarchapulco, and he didn't make it. I forget one year why he couldn't, but this year in 2019, he said he wasn't feeling well, so he couldn't make it. So I said, Doug, you have to make it. And he said, well, pay me in gold and I'll make sure I make it. He's a very anarcho-capitalist. It was actually hard for me to find the gold in Mexico, but I did find enough gold for him. And super excited. If you don't know a lot about Doug Casey, he's going to be one of the best speakers out of Anarchapulco. And he's the person who got me into anarcho-capitalism. So I told him, Doug, you have to come see what 3,000 anarcho-capitalists looks like. Because when I first met him in 2002, there was maybe 300 anarcho-capitalists in the entire world. And now there's 3,000 just at this conference. So super excited to have him. And then we have Freeway Rick Ross. If you don't know about him, he's sort of like one of the top drug lords ever in the U.S. He's sort of like the El Chapo of the U.S. or the who's the big guy in Colombia there that they always talk about. He did billions of dollars in cocaine transactions, all kinds of involvement with the CIA at the time in one way or another. Then he was thrown in jail for life, another person. But while he was in jail, he actually found a loophole and got out after, I think, about 15 years or something like that, 20 years. And so really want to hear from him on his perspective on the war on drugs and just how the CIA is involved so much in that market. And also maybe even it might be helpful to hear how he got out of a life sentence. Maybe people like Ross Ulbricht can get some information on that. He'll be on Anarchast soon as well. We're just talking to him right now. Bigtree of the movie Vaxxed, and sort of like a leader of the anti-vaccine movement, will be speaking. And he's done some amazing work. I interviewed him on Anarchast recently. Larkin Rose, of course. He's a perennial. I think he's spoken at every Anarchapulco. And he probably will speak at every Anarchapulco as long as he wants to, because to me, he's one of the leaders of thought in this movement. And I think most of you know him. But he'll also be doing the Candles in the Dark after Anarchapulco in 2020. So it'll be on the Monday and Tuesday afterwards, which I guess would be the 17th and 18th of February. Anarchapulco is actually 10 days this 2020, but the main event is February 13th to 16th, so 4 days like always. And then I'm really happy James Corbett. He spoke at the very first Anarchapulco. There was only 120 people at that one, and he gave an amazing speech. Then he's been busy, and then he had a kid and couldn't make it. I've invited him almost every year since then, and finally convinced him to make the trek from Japan to Acapulco in 2020, and he's done so much amazing work on exposing so many things. Jeffrey Tucker, of course, coming back. To me, Jeffrey Tucker is so emblematic of the anarcho-capitalist sort of movement that he's always invited back. And he's such a wealth of knowledge with his experience with Murray Rothbard and Ayn Rand. And he's just a wealth of historic experience and one of the smartest people around and amazing speakers. So got to have Jeffrey Tucker back. Benny Wills of Joy Camp will actually be emceeing this year. So if you've seen him at a few Anarchapulcos, he's probably had some like short, like 10, 15-minute sort of skits that he does. He'll actually be emceeing the entire 4 days. And so that should be really great. And just so you know, we try to have a different MC every year too. Try to keep everything, there's so many amazing people that we want to make sure we get to them all. So we just don't want to have the same people every year. We've had so many great MCs over the year, and Jeffrey Tucker was the MC last year, and this year it'll be Benny Wills. And then I'm really excited for Paul Rosenberg. He's been on Anarchast about 3 or 4 times because he's so smart, and he just put out a book because he was involved in the cypherpunk movement. So he was around in the 80s and 90s working on things like Bitcoin, and he just put out a book about how they did it and all that kind of stuff. He's one of the most interesting and smartest people I know. And so if you don't know Paul Rosenberg, you're going to love what he has to say. Then we have Dale Brown of the Detroit Threat Management Center, and I'm really excited. He was invited 1 or 2 years and couldn't make it. But I really like what he's doing with private policing, so to speak, private security. And he's got so much interesting experience on how everything can be done better privately than the police can do it, the government police, obviously. So really excited about that. I also have Michael Bowman. He's going to be on Anarchast soon. He was one of the people who first started the decriminalization or legalization movement for cannabis, still heavily involved in the cannabis business, very involved with some very interesting people, very connected, that sort of thing. So very happy to have him. Also, Piazza Nico Sif, who's I had on Anarchast talking about circumcision. She's one of I think the top person talking about how people shouldn't be butchering their baby boys anymore. So very excited about that. So many others. I could just keep going on and on. Of course, there's people like Luke Rudowski of We Are Change, Josh Sigurdsson of World Alternative Media, Dan Dix of Press for Truth, Carrie Wedler, who keeps putting out great videos. There's so many, and there's I could just keep going on and on. I want to get back to you, Catherine, here because I don't want to keep this going. But we just announced the names just yesterday, so I wanted to let people know some of them. These are just about, I don't know how many I just named there, like 15 or something. We just announced about 25 or 30. There's actually going to be about 10 or 20 more, including some even bigger names. And some of the big ones that I was so excited. They still haven't, with all their agents and all that kind of stuff, we haven't sorted it out, but they most likely will be coming. But we haven't announced them yet because we need their sign off. So there's going to be tons of announcements. And this is just for the main stage. We haven't announced for the Health and Wellness Conference. It's going to be 30 or 40 or 50 of the top health people in the world, including big names. We haven't announced those yet. We haven't announced any of the Cryptopulco speakers. It's going to be most of the top people in crypto. It's going to be with about 50 speakers there as well. This gets crazy. Of course, we have the Vigilante Summit before Anarchapulco on February 11th and 12th. That's going to be about 20 amazing financial and economic and market type people and crypto people as well. But I just wanted to mention some of them. There's a few more I could mention. People like Angel Clark, I'm really excited about because she's lived in Acapulco for about 5 years, but she hasn't agreed to speak yet. And she's not going to be a full speaker. She's going to be on a panel of sort of expats. So for a lot of people who want to find out how to expat to places like Acapulco, which I know, Catherine, you have talked so glowingly about, and you loved your time there. But not just Acapulco, but anywhere in the world. We're going to have a bunch of expats for people who are thinking about getting out of the USSA or Canada, spelled with a K, or other places, or wherever you want to go, but give you that kind of information. So this list goes on and on. Go check it out at anarchapulco.com. And I think there's still some early bird type tickets available because we wanted to keep it up until after we announced the first speakers, at least. I think it's just for a week or maybe max 2 weeks. So definitely get your tickets. I think for sure this is going to sell out. It's going to be about 3,000 people. We haven't even announced the musical acts yet. When people hear that, it's going to blow their minds. So anyway, I just wanted to, sorry it took so long, but I did want to mention some of these because I'm really excited about it. And this is just the beginning. So we'll get back to you, Catherine. Let's get started. And Catherine, before we get started, I'm going to have to ask you the usual question here of how did you become an anarchist?
Well, I actually became an anarchist at the Porcupine Freedom Festival during a Soapbox Idol rant off. It was the year I became the Soapbox Idol champion at PorcFest, and I was on stage giving a rant because I was so frustrated with politics. I was a delegate to the Republican National Convention for Dr. Ron Paul in 2008, and I was just so frustrated with the political process. I had moved to state politics and city politics, and I felt like when I was at the RNC, I was an extra on a television set. I didn't really have a role there. And so I was on stage giving this rant, and it hit me like a bolt of lightning, and I ended my rant, which I will give the G-rated version, but I was like, I'm a mother effing anarchist! And it was just this moment I had in front of hundreds of people, and it dawned on me while I was talking that I'm not a minarchist, I'm not political, I am an anarchist, and I believe in sovereignty and freedom for everyone from birth until death, and that is how it happened.
That's funny that you had this realization while you're on stage at a Ron Paul event and just realized, hey, wait a sec, I am an anarchist, and you just went with it. That's great. You put out a video a little while ago just talking about your experiences at the last couple of Anarchapulcos and how much it changed your life, and it really was really great to see. I was really happy to see that and how much it really changed your life. So for people who might not have seen that, and I'm sure there's lots who didn't, actually I didn't even mention what you do. Let me just sort of mention who you are before. Sorry, I didn't even do that. You do the homestead.guru. You also are an unschooling mom, and you've talked about that at the last couple of Anarchapulcos, and you might be speaking on something like that again this year. And we're going to have a big, again, free your family camp with a lot of families coming who want to learn about how to live more free. And you really, truly do live about as free as I've seen anyone really live. You're traveling all over. You don't care. I don't even know if your kids have passports. You also do the Untamed.life podcast, and of course, you're managing the health and wellness portion of Anarchapulco this year. So that's your background. We'll have the links to all that stuff down below if you want to definitely follow Catherine. She does some amazing stuff. She's also on Instagram. We'll put her Instagram down there. She puts out just tons of great and very uplifting sort of stuff. But give us a little bit of your background on how'd you come to Anarchapulco and how that changed your life?
Yeah, so I actually was invited by Nathan a couple times to come to Anarchapulco, and I couldn't convince the father of my kids to go, and finally 2 years ago I said, look, I don't care if you come or not, I'm going. There's something inside of me that is just pulling me there, and I'm gonna go. I don't care if it's international travel, I'm gonna figure it out. So our children are basically undocumented, except they do have passports. We got them passports. You don't need to sign a birth certificate or do any of these social security numbers, these things, to get passports. And my children have passports with their birth names, which are baby girl and baby boy Bleish, which I think is really cool. They've got little pseudonyms that they go by in real life, and we got their passports and we came. And I gave a talk on unschooling on the health and wellness stage that was sort of a pre-Anarchapulco conference, and he watched the kids while I attended every single talk. And I did workshops that I never imagined doing. I took Tantra workshops and acro yoga, and I did a combo ceremony. And this medicine allowed me to completely eradicate my body of a very, very toxic situation. I had been bit by a brown recluse spider. I'm not kidding, 2 years to the date of my combo ceremony at Anarchapulco. And I had spent 2 years like really suffering, dealing with my inflammation, drinking charcoal, trying to detox my body. And Dr. Matthew Buckley really guided me along that process. And I felt like when I came to Anarchapulco, I still had a level of toxicity. And when I left, I felt liberated from it. And it began a very rapid-paced healing journey for me. And I was so lit up about the health and wellness portion of Anarchapulco because I tried so many new things and I was exposed to so many new ideas and way of living and functioning in the world that I couldn't stop talking about it. I wanted to come back. I wanted to be as big of a part of the health and wellness portion as possible. And that is when Jessica brought me on to help manage the stage and do that. So I did that this past year. I was the MC and I helped bring the speakers on and coordinate the stage with my partner Paolo. And I feel so passionate about it because it impacted me on such an intimate and visceral level, and I want to bring that gift to everybody I meet. And I'm calling everybody I know to come down to Acapulco. I spent 6 months there over this past year because I fell in love with the culture. I fell in love with the location. I did a very intense Ashtanga yoga apprenticeship while I was there, and it transformed me. I really, truly am so grateful for you and for everybody who has worked on this event through the years, because when I showed up, it was exactly what I needed to evolve into the new person that I am right now.
That's great. And as you know, that is our tagline for 2020 is evolve. And a lot of people, I've heard the stories a lot. We're not just like making this stuff up. Like a lot of people have life-changing experiences at Anarchapulco, and a lot of them is related to the health and wellness portion, which we didn't have for the first few years. But I was like, you know, this is such a big part of like self-sovereignty is like your own health, and there's so much information out there that most people still don't even know. And like you said, you went and did a combo ceremony. For people out there who don't know what that is, I've done it a couple times. It's essentially you burn yourself, or a shaman burns you and then puts frog poison into your burn wounds. And maybe we could play a bit of the clip while I'm talking here of me puking when I went with Luke Radowski to do it. But it can be very healing. There's something about these things, a lot of these things, and maybe you can even talk about that since you've done some of them. I don't know if you've done some of the other psychedelics as well in Acapulco, but a lot of this stuff is you know, this is a natural stuff from the earth, and shamans and other indigenous sort of people have known this stuff for millennia, how this can help people. But of course, if you live in a place like the U.S. and you get a brown recluse bite or whatever spider bit you, you're kind of like S out of luck. You're just like, take these pills and you're just going to feel bad for a long time, and that sort of thing. So maybe talk a little bit more about the health and wellness and the kind of things that people might be able to get from that. And also, I want to know, because I'm actually not even sure. I think we're going to start before Anarchapulco this year with the health and wellness again, like we did a couple of years ago. Is that right?
Yes, so this year we have a little retreat that is taking place before health and wellness. I'm really excited about that. This is going to be focused on movement and kind of working out all of the things that kind of suck about modern everyday life. Because when we show up in Mexico, it's this opportunity to really relax and expand and grow. And some of us really need to move. We need to dance. We need to do yoga. We need to get still and quiet and meditate so that our bodies can start to release all of this tension that we're carrying, so that we're ready to receive when the conference starts. So we're expecting about 100 people to attend this retreat. This is a pre-event It's a separate ticket that you can find on anarchapulco.com. I'm really excited about that. Misty, who sponsored the yoga and dance last year, is taking the lead on that little retreat that's coming up. Verde Vegan is going to be providing juices and healthy meals. It's just going to be a really, really fantastic experience with sound baths. And then when we move into the actual Anarchapulco event, we have a whole area set up in the Oceans Rooms, which is where the health and wellness event took place 2 years ago. Not this year in 2019, but in 2018. And there's 4 rooms set up, and I am just so lit up about this and really excited about it, because not only are we going to be offering some really dynamic presentations on the stage in terms of speeches, but this year we're also going to have a bunch of practitioners that are here offering services. And Dr. Matthew Buckley has sponsored the practitioner space, and he is bringing down doctors who are going to be offering all sorts of different modalities, including stem cells, body work, all sorts of different things. And this is going to be an opportunity for you to build a relationship with a practitioner and to really put this stuff into practice. And then we're going to have a movement room, which is where we're going to be able to do dance and yoga. And then we're also going to have a lounge. And this is going to be a really neat space where you can come, you can relax, you can drink a cacao drink, you can communicate with people. And that is also where our speakers are going to be redirected when they leave the health and wellness stage. Because last year we had an issue with them being bombarded in the hallway, and it was creating noise inside the stage. So we're going to be funneling, because people have so many questions to ask the people who are speaking. And this year I'm really excited because we have invited 17 doctors, not just medical doctors, but PhDs. So the caliber and the quality of people who are going to be giving presentations is incredible, very high, very academic. And I think it is going to be a part of the event that nobody's going to want to miss. I mean, this is really important when we are learning how to take ownership of our bodies, and then we are getting involved and actually doing it, and we're moving and we're stretching and we're opening ourselves up, and we're getting to work with these practitioners in a safe space. Some of these are things that you can't do in the United States, like stem cells. So this is a really, really neat opportunity, and it is just going to be so expansive compared to last year, and last year was awesome. So this is really, really exciting for me.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because there's so many new things we're doing. We're buying out the hotel yet again. And for people who don't know, last year we bought out the hotel and we were hoping to have up to 3,000 people. We only ended up with about 2,000 because the crypto market was just so brutally bad last year. And so many people that are who go to Anarchapulco are into crypto. And I received dozens of emails. It's like, I wish I could go, but with Bitcoin down at 3,000 now, down from 20,000, and Ethereum down below 100, I just can't make it. And so now the cryptos are coming back quite a bit this year. So we are definitely think we could hit the 3,000, which is actually the maximum. That's about the maximum we can hold anywhere there. And if we do hit that, we have bought out the hotel, and we will do a lot of really, really cool things if we have the 3,000. Obviously, we don't have 3,000. If we have 2,500, we'll have to do a few less things because we won't have the budget for it. But if we actually sell out, and I think we will, it's going to be like just a wonderland of amazing stuff all over the Princess Hotel all week. And as you mentioned, the health and wellness starts before. There's going to be a health and wellness stage all during Anarchapulco. It's also going to be Cryptopulco all during Anarchapulco. So one of the things that a lot of people out there are probably saying is, man, there's so many things. I obviously only have one body. I can't attend all these things all at once. So we're going to make sure we're recording every single stage this year, and that you can get those videos. We're going to make sure that all the attendees can get access to all the videos for a very cheap price. We're obviously going to charge, so it costs us a lot to do all this stuff. But what you want to do is see every single talk, and there's going to be, I think, hundreds of them when you add them up. There's going to be 50 on the main stage. There's going to be probably 50 on Cryptopulco, probably, I don't even know, on health and wellness. You'd know more than me. And then we have other stuff going on as well. So we'll have all that available for people. But we want to offer as much as we can during that entire week. And as you know, Kat, we also kind of like have even extended it more than we normally do. So I think we're officially kind of starting around, I think it's February 10th. or what? Yeah, February 10th, I think. And I think health and wellness might be starting then. And then I have my Vigilante Summit on the 11th and 12th. That's if you're into the finance stuff and economics and investing and things like that. Then Anarchapulco and Cryptopulco and the health and wellness and other stages, February 13th to 16th. And then we still have the hotel there. I don't think we have it bought out, but we still have many of the rooms. February 17th, 18th, I think even 19th for things like Lark and Rose's Candle in the Dark and a whole other bunch of workshops. It's a pretty crazy week.
It's going to be amazing, and I can't fail to mention that there's also going to be an integration retreat with Lila, the shaman. So for those of you who are into the plant medicine, who are into the ceremonial things, you can actually stay a little longer and do an integration retreat. And I was able to do a little integration ceremony with him and some of the team from last year, and it was hands down the most powerful experience of my life. It was absolutely incredible, and we are so blessed to have him as a shaman here. And when we're receiving all of this new information and all of this new data, I think it's really important that we are focusing on integrating it so that we can go back out into the world and spread these idea of freedom and anarchy and love and peace to the rest of humanity. So I highly encourage, if you are interested in that, to look into the integration retreat that is taking place in the final days as well.
Yeah, I would, everyone's busy. A lot of people have jobs, that sort of thing. And, to come for a week and a half is a lot for a lot of people. And it, of course, costs money as well. We're trying to keep, of course, everything as cheap as we can. The hotel rooms, like really, when you look at the hotel compared to a hotel in any other place in the world, really, it's about 1/3 the price. So like most of the rooms are under $150 a night. That's like what would that be? That'd be like a Days Inn in like some crappy town in the U.S. This is basically a 5-star resort with an amazing spa and all this other stuff going on. So I really encourage people, if you can, to come, when it starts, February 10th, and leave after it ends, like a lot of people do anyway. As you know, Kat, you stayed 6 months. A lot of people stay for like an entire month. So even if you do, just so you know, there's tons of stuff going on. I remember there was after parties and events going on for like a week or two after Anarchapulco last year. So if you can, definitely try to. And as Kat was saying, like there's so much you can learn. There's so much interesting things going on. It's kind of like going to like college, but actually learning something for like an entire week. And as Kat mentioned too, and I think that's a really good idea that you guys have, is to have this pre-conference health and wellness. So you come a little early, get adjusted, especially if you're coming from Europe or Asia. And I think we had over 50 different countries came last year. So a lot of people are coming from a long ways. So you're obviously going to be jet lagged and all that kind of stuff. So get into the health and wellness, start doing some of these things, yoga, meditation, get on the juices from Verde Vegan and all that stuff. Then you get into the conference, and that's just craziness for like 4 days or more. And then afterwards, you can kind of like wind down, as Kat said, and sort of like integrate with a lot of these sort of shaman types. And last year, I don't know if they're coming back this year, but we have the top shaman essentially in Mexico, and that's Lilo. And then he flew up last year, some of the top shamans from the Amazon. And like these guys, I don't even know if they spoke Spanish or English or anything. Like they're like hardcore from the Amazon forest. But Leela told me that they really wanted to come up because they heard about what we're doing, and they think it's really important that people like ourselves, people who believe in love and peace and fixing this world, that we're totally like got totally healed and ready to go, because this is not going to be easy over the next few years to change the world. But they wanted to come up just to basically help us.
Yes, absolutely. And I can't fail to mention how important it is to bring the whole family. I go with my kids and they love it. Not only do we have the family camp where there's all sorts of activities for children to participate in and for parents to come learn about what it's like to raise sovereign children, because there's so many questions when it comes to raising sovereign children, whether it's how to parent, how to handle health, how to handle food, how to handle registration and IDs and things like this. But sometimes it's fun to just come and actually do activities with your children. But then the hotel provides childcare. I had never left my children with anyone when I first came to Anarchapulco. And my kids did not want to leave the hotel childcare area. They have, you know, young Mexicans. It's almost like a 1-to-1 ratio between the helpers and the children. And I was actually in there when there was a documentary filming when an earthquake hit. And they had those children out the door and lined up outside before I even could comprehend what was happening. So I feel like if you want to come and really enjoy the conference as a family, this is a safe space. The whole hotel's bought out. There is childcare provided if you're a guest at the hotel. If you're not a guest, if you're staying in an Airbnb, you can pay a very small fee. They do crafts, they bake food, they play. I didn't know what to do with myself. I mean, truly, I did not know what to do with myself during the first Anarchapulco because I wasn't having to manage my kids the whole time. I went and sat by the pool. I hung out with people. It was an entirely new experience for me. And my daughter started surfing in Acapulco. So the opportunities for your family to expand, to evolve, to try new things, they are just absolutely limitless. So don't feel like you have to leave your kids behind. I encourage you to come with everybody, bring the whole crew. And that's the other part. Yes, there's so much. There's so many stages. There's so many opportunities. And yes, there's videos. But if you come as the whole family, you can go where your passions lie and you can fill each other in later and decompress and really powwow with everybody in the end and see what everybody learned, because we are all interested in different things. It's even in a family unit. So bring everybody, it is worth it. And kids get into the event for free. So there's really no cost other than their transportation and food.
Yeah, that's one of the great things I love about Mexico. It has such a family culture in Mexico. And almost every restaurant, not every, but a lot of restaurants I go to, they have a kids area. And it's usually a really nice little room. They got video games and all kinds of games. And there's usually a couple of sort of younger people, like 12, 13, 14-year-old boys and girls. And they'll just play with the kids. And it's just a very normal part of Mexican life. Like, you just always bring your kids to these places. And there's always stuff for them to do. If they're really small, they'll take care of them, that sort of thing. And there at the Princess, I've been in that kids room or whatever they call it a couple times, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. They got everything in there, and I could totally see kids just not wanting to leave that area. So yeah, definitely, if you've got kids, like, definitely bring them. I don't like it'd be really stupid not to bring them, because they're gonna get to play with a bunch of other cool kids too, and you're gonna get to meet a lot of other families that are all doing very interesting things and that sort of thing. So like, a lot of the time, a lot of people think, well, I've got kids, I can't bring them, I'm going to a conference. Like, you can't bring your kids to the conference. Like, this is the exact opposite. You can go, I don't know if we're going to do it again this year. I don't know who did it even last year, but go and like set little baby turtles free and all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of activities. And of course, there's lots of activities for adults as well. We've got tons of parties all the time and rap concerts. And I'm not sure if we're going to do it on the beach this year, but we're thinking about it, actually having a lot of the music just right on the beach. So that'll be great. So much exciting stuff going on, and you see it a lot, Kat, because you're in a lot of the meetings, and we still got a long ways to go here. We're just in August, so what is that, like 7 months still? September, October, November, December, January, February, 6 months. Okay, so we got a little over 6 months, and we're still have a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing, and it's going to be exciting to see how it all comes together.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. One of my favorite parts about Anarchapulco is the community and all the people that show up. And yes, the speeches are fantastic. The conference itself is mind-blowing, life-changing. It will rock your world. But what has created an even bigger impact on me are the relationships that I have built while I'm in attendance. I've been to all of the Freedom Liberty conferences in the United States, but Anarchapulco is very unique. It is very special. When you are standing in a group talking to people, you're gonna look around and realize everyone's from a different country and continent. I mean, the amount of diversity and exposure you have to different cultural ideas is absolutely unlike anything you can find at any conference in the United States. I have never experienced something with such variety and such an intercultural flair. And honestly, over the past year and a half, basically all of my best friends are the people that I've met at the past 2 Anarchapulcos, because these are the people who are on this same path of evolution that I am on, and I have been able to visit them all across the globe. I have been able to go spend time in people's homes with other unschool families. My children, their closest friends are people that we have met at this conference. So, I mean, the relationships are really the icing on the cake for me when it comes to Anarchapulco. You are meeting the cream of the crop internationally. These are the people who are on the journey, who are walking the path, and who will do it by your side, and who will hold your hand with you as you face these new scary ideas and you change your lifestyle and you try these new things and these new experiences. It can be overwhelming, but when you're doing it together in community with people you can trust because they believe in the same values that you do and they're living the same way that you are, or at least bits and pieces, and they're evolving and changing and going in the same direction as you, it's incredible. I mean, it is incredible. I love Anarchapulco, and I love the relationships that I've developed because of it.
Yeah, and you spent like a lot of time in Acapulco. You spent like 6 months there, and we should just mention this because still some people have some questions about it. I still hear it every year, but anyone who's been to Anarchapulco knows it's completely and totally fine. There's nothing at all to worry about. In fact, I feel safer in Acapulco than when I go to the U.S. in many, many different ways, but a lot of people still are unsure. So from your perspective, you're basically, you got your young little unschooled kids. I see you on the beach all the time with them. You're surfing, all this kind of stuff. Like, just give people your sense of like what it's like to even just live in Acapulco.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first showed up in 2018, I was terrified to go out after dark, okay? Like terrified because you'd heard all this propaganda, right? And I actually had gone and watched the sunset with Paulo, my now partner. We had just met. And he was like, I'm going to go make some guacamole, go home. And I'm like, go home? The sun just set. It's dark. You're going to, and I mean, it was a block and a half, okay? We were like 3 blocks from each other. And I was mortified. This man is sending me home after dark by myself. And I go walking the block and a half, no exaggeration. And I see grandparents and grandchildren and families out. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm tripping a little. And so as time went on, because the first time I came for 6 weeks. I just knew if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go and stay for a little bit. And I wish I'd been able to stay longer that time around. That's why we came for 6 months later. And I started venturing out a little bit more and being a little more brave. And every time I walked out, I realized, okay, there are entire families out right now. There are entire families out right now. I have seen people get mugged in Brooklyn. I never saw anyone get mugged in Acapulco. So when I went back, I had a different perspective. I wasn't terrified. Now, of course, in any city that you travel to, you need to be cautious. Don't walk around on your phone, you know, be aware. Have situational awareness. Don't be silly. Don't be, you know, don't put your head in the sand. Pay attention to your surroundings. There are criminals everywhere. But I was there with my children. We stood out like a sore thumb. I'm covered in freckles. My son is blonde. People are reaching out to touch his hair as he walks by. And honestly, I felt protected by the community in Acapulco. As we spent more time on the beach in Bonfil, the volunteer lifeguards got to know my family, the restaurants got to know my family, and we were welcomed and we were celebrated. Most people thought we were Canadian because there's not very many American tourists who are there in October. But, you know, when we were there, we felt welcomed, and I honestly felt very safe and very secure. I would let my son walk very far in front of me because he felt so confident. And really, there's a lot of security. I was in a condo complex. It was very affordable. It wasn't high-end or anything. And we had, you know, little security guards. They all knew my children. They all knew me. It felt very welcoming. We spent a lot of time out in public, a lot of time on the beach. You know, my kids walked barefoot everywhere, you know, just swimsuits every day, everywhere we went. We were completely comfortable. I didn't feel afraid other than the first week I was there as I deprogrammed all of this anti-Mexico stuff. And I'm really a believer at this point in time in my life that when I was in Mexico, I was more free. I felt that way. I felt more free. And I would be there forever if I had the choice, but my children's father lives here in the United States, and you know, we gotta make these decisions mutually. So right now I'm back in Texas, but I'll be back for Anarchapulco, and you know, I want to spend as much time as I can there because I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel afraid when I was driving my car. I didn't have palpitations every time I saw a law enforcement official. I didn't feel afraid. And as once I let go of the programming from media and from all the fear that is shoved down my throat, because before we went, trust me, people, you're going to Mexico, I can't believe it, you're taking the kids, you're crazy. And then the second time we drove, I drove with Paulo and the kids and the pets, the dog, the cat, from Austin to Acapulco, back. You know, we're doing this cross-country road trip. And compared to driving across the United States, which I have done dozens and dozens of times, coast to coast, border to border, I was not afraid. I was not afraid of being bullied by a rogue cop. I was not afraid of something happening. You know, I went 6 years without a driver's license. I just got one in the past year. And I was afraid because I didn't have a driver's license and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was trying to live as sovereign as possible. And so, I mean, once I ventured down into Mexico and I realized how free it was, and I realized that it's a bunch of garbage that we are fed by the media, that it is a scary place, it changed my life. Because I have found that they are one of the most family-oriented, loving, and generous cultures that I have ever been exposed to, and that is what I want my children exposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I've basically been living in Mexico for about 10 years. I'm not officially a resident or anything like that, but it's one of my favorite places in the world. There's really no place like it. There's a lot of other places I really love as well, but there's no place like Mexico. And once you get to know the people and the culture, it's really just amazing. It's so much different than, I'm from Canada, and you don't feel like you're, even in a small town, you don't feel like everyone's like friendly, or I'm sure there is some, but I haven't been to anywhere like everyone's like, big smile on their face and how are you? And, just so friendly here in Mexico, and so relaxed, and you just feel so much freer, and really you are so much freer. There just isn't that big police state. There isn't, you can basically do anything you want in Mexico, and that's the way I like it. So you're there in Texas, and we've been going on for quite a while here. We should maybe cut it short here fairly soon, but is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention?
Not particularly. I just love Anarchapulco, and I'm so honored to be a part of it, and grateful that you all are welcoming of me and my ideas and allowing me to focus my time and energy into this project, because I really believe it's changing the world in one of the most tangible and real ways that I've ever seen before in my life. So if you haven't been before, I just want to encourage everyone out there watching to take the plunge, buy your tickets today. It is worth it. It is absolutely worth it. Invest in yourself, invest in your future, invest in your health, invest in your relationships and your personal expansion and evolution, because this event, this is it. This is the event. It is life-changing, world-changing. It is absolutely fantastic, and I am so, so grateful to be a part of it, and I hope to be a part of it as long as the event is going on, truly.
That's great. We appreciate you as well. And yeah, I hear that quite a bit from people. I'll see like someone post about Anarchapulco and say, I have to go next year. And someone will go, I'll never be able to go. And then like someone will go, why? And they'll be like, oh, I don't have that kind of money. It's like, well, just saying that alone, you're kind of screwing yourself. You're basically, because your subconscious is listening. So your subconscious is like, oh, we'll never be able to go. So we'll never make this happen. Like, it's amazing what can happen. There's so many stories. There was a guy who came down, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's an artist, and he had very little money, and he just decided just to go for it. He's like, I'll just take a bus down, and I don't even have enough for a hotel, and I'll just see what happens. And he showed up, and I knew who he was, and he's very well known. I should know his name. He made actually the artwork a couple years ago for Anarchapulco, and he showed up. I was like, oh, I love your art. And I'm like, where are you staying? He's like, I don't even have enough money for a hotel. I'm like, what? I'm like, why don't you do the artwork for Anarchapulco and we'll get you a hotel room? He's like, deal. And then at the dinner with Ron Paul, he got up and he started selling his artwork. I think he sold like $1,500 worth. So he just took a chance and came down. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen for everyone, but I've seen that happen so many times. Like, just if you really want to go, just try to do it. And even last year, like, there's lots of problems. We never told anyone about this, but I don't even know who it was. But Jessica, who basically runs the event, about a week after, she goes, there's still a guy in the Princess and he's holed up in his room and he's got no money and he missed his flight and apparently he's got alcohol problems and he's really messed up. And I'm like, let's take care of him, make sure that he's okay. You know, there's AA meetings. We actually have those, I think, every year. So if you have alcohol problems, we have that even down in Acapulco. I don't know where it is. I've never gone, but I've heard that they do have them. They keep it a little bit quiet. Yeah, we just bought his flight home for him and stuff like that. So that's the kind of crowd it is as well. As you know, Kat, like so many people actually live in Acapulco. A lot of people just come and they'll just rent a place for like 6 months, like you said. And a lot of just very helping, welcoming kind of people. Like I've seen this so often that people have a problem and other people will just, you know, make sure that they help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found it was actually incredibly more affordable to live in Acapulco than it was to live in the United States. And we were in a condo right across the street from the beach. So if money is what you believe is limiting you, I want you to know that is a false idea. Once you get down there, you can live incredibly abundantly for very little. So consider it, try it. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, the food's so cheap. Tacos, basically 5 tacos is about $1.50 or $2, and they're so delicious. And yeah, all kinds of things are very cheap there as well. So, for just basically saying for anyone out there, if you kind of like, oh, I wish I could go, when you actually say what you should do, and I'm not just doing this so you come to our conference. I'm doing this to help you. Is go, I will go this year. And then what happens is your brain starts going, oh, we're going, we better start making things happen. And then your subconscious starts doing stuff. You actually create your own reality by actually enunciating it. It's actually magic when you speak. When you vibrate your vocal cords, you're actually creating energy, and that actually changes things. So when people hear you speak, that changes them. They go, oh, that guy just said that. Now they change. And that's why when you spell something, it's called spelling, because you're actually casting a spell. So even if you write it down, so if you write it down, I will go to Anarchapulco next year, it'll probably happen because you've already put this sort of magic, you could say, good magic, into action. And it's amazing how the mind works. So I know that's a little bit hippie for some people, but a lot of hippies down there, and this is actually where I learned a lot of this stuff, is a lot of the hippies that come to Anarchapulco. Like, it's actually changed my life, even just learning about these things. And that's the kind of stuff you can learn down there. So if you're watching this and you're going, I'll never make it, stop it. Don't say that ever again. You're actually sabotaging yourself. If you really want to go, I will go next year. And say that every day and watch what happens. And I hope you show up and you tell me, I didn't think I was going to be able to make it, but it somehow happened. That's what can happen. So, Kat, I'll let you get back to your life there. And you get your kids and all that kind of stuff and lots of work to do for Anarchapulco 2020. And I do as well. So we'll leave it at that. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share down below. Anarchapulco tickets are on sale right now, and they will be going up in price. I don't know when exactly. So they will go up over time. Not too much though, but if you want to get a better deal, definitely make sure you sign up. And I have a feeling we're going to sell out. So if you don't want to miss it, definitely sign up sooner rather than later. And it actually helps us out a lot too, just to let everyone know. If only 1,000 people sign up by November, we're like looking at our budgets and we're starting to cancel stuff, right? Now, a lot of people might still intend to come. It might be 3,000 people, but we don't know that. We don't have enough time to plan. So the earlier that you can sign up, the more it helps us, because if we have 2,500 by November, we're like, okay, we can spend a lot this year, or let's do everything 100%. So it helps us, it helps you, and you save some money that way. So just go to anarchapulco.com. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
Anarchapulco, it's so hype, I'm trying to tell ya. This the event of the year and best vacation ever. Ron Potter, Jeffrey Tucker, just to name a few. Get your tickets, you don't wanna miss it. You should roll through. Talking politics to health and self-improvement to investing. So many things, not one thing. Learn how to live life unchained, yeah. 4 days vibing on the beach, time to connect. All about growth, way more than a conference. This is Anarchapulco, yeah. Let's go.
You ain't seen nothing yet.